Hello, everyone. We are the Story Sunbirds, a kidlit collective of authors and illustrators whose mission is to cultivate a dynamic and inclusive community rooted in justice, anti-racism, and anti-colonialism. A year ago today, the children of Gaza held a press conference outside of El Shifa Hospital to ask for an end to the war. And today we're taking part in a Children's Day of Action. It's a multi-organizational, multi-day effort to commemorate that day. Our action is a day-long read aloud, and we have authors and illustrators presenting every 20 minutes until 7 p.m. tonight. You can find the chat in the lineup. And we are also raising money for the Middle East Children's Alliance, and donations will provide essential services for Palestinian families. So be on the lookout for the link in the chat throughout the day. And when you email us a receipt of your donation, you'll be entered into a signed book giveaway from some of our presenting authors and illustrators today. So again, all of that is available in the chat. And if you have a question for our next guest, which is me, also, please put it in the chat, in the Q&A, not the chat, the Q&A. And so I am going to start. Welcome me. Okay. So I need just a second to figure out how to share I don't want to share oh, here we go, a document. Darn it, okay. Sorry, y'all. I thought we could just, okay, this is a problem.
What do you want to share, Rhonda?
I have a document that I wanted to share.
Okay, when you hit share,
Yeah.
up top it says Screens, Document, Advanced.
Yeah, I did that. Share.
So go to click on Document and then look for your
documents.
On your Google Drive.
That's a problem. I don't have it on my Google Drive.
Oh, I see.
Let me put it on my Google Drive.
Okay.
Sorry, y'all.
Oh, that's all good. In the meantime, you all can take a look at the chat and take a look at the lineup. The lineup is amazing going forward. Right now we are Omar Abed, who opened up and did a beautiful welcoming when we started. They are going to be coming back as just as a presenter, and they're going to be sharing their book and the book that almost rhymed. And then Hatem Ali is going to be joining us, and then I'm coming back, Aida Salazar, to talk about Jovita Wear Pants, and then Danielle Davis, another one of our wonderful moderators, who's going to be coming on right after. And did you get it?
Now opening up.
Okay, so yeah, so at 1:20, Inda, who is in Australia, is going to be joining us at 1:20, and then Emo Yüksel is also going to be joining us in my mosque, doing their book in my mosque, and then Salam Zar is going to be doing a draw along. I thought Christine Suggs' draw along was so awesome, wasn't it? It was so good. And then Eric Smith, who's in the Zoom room somewhere, virtual Zoom room. Hey, Eric, thank you so much for being here and supporting. And then the great Saba Tahir is going to be here. And then another illustrator, Rob Leo Trujillo, and Isabel Quintero, Mama's Panza, which is actually a book that I translated, La Panza de Mama. So it's very excited. And this next next up would be Padma Venkatraman, and she's going to be reading some selected writings. So much, and that's just till 3:40, y'all. This is so amazing. And then we're going to be ending it up really strong in the next section with Jacqueline Woodson, Ahuda Fahmy, Salma Ali, Rifk Abid. I mean, and then we'll be sharing some more of Mosab Abu Toha's poetry. And so very, very excited about everybody who is coming up. Rhonda, I would
Okay, so I'm gonna try something new, and I'm going to just share my screen because I
should
can't
be
connect
okay.
it for some reason to the document. So one more second, we're gonna spend the whole time doing this. I'm so sorry, everyone. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
Ooh, okay,
sure.
so we're gonna do this, and we're gonna share my screen instead, and that did not work. So here we go, sharing. Did that work?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry everyone, technical difficulties.
So
Um,
just know that your time is a little bit
yes,
short.
now I'm gonna have a lot less time. Okay, so I am going to try to go as quickly as I can. So I'm the author of these 3 books that came out last year. One's coming out the end of this month, is called Kusum, Star of the East. But I am going to be talking to you about tagging freedom. And it's my upper MG that came out exactly 1 year ago today. And it's a book about protest and revolution. And it's relevant to today's Read Aloud because we're talking about Palestine and standing in solidarity with those who want freedom. And it's told from 2 points of view, from the point of Kareem, a 13-year-old Syrian boy, and his Syrian American cousin, Samira. And it starts out in Syria. Kareem is graffitiing with his friends, and he almost gets caught. And his parents send him to the US to be with his aunt and uncle and cousin. So I wrote this book for so many reasons. So many people want to know, many people know about the war and what happened in Syria. But a lot of people might not know how it started or why it started. So the war in Syria started off as a revolution, and it was a call for freedom. So that is what this is about. It's about protest, it's about revolution, graffiti, and freedom. And so the book starts in 2011, and there were revolutions sweeping across the different countries of the Arab world. And the first one started in Tunisia, but the one that really captured people's imagination was in Egypt. So you saw these millions of people came down to the central square in Egypt, and people were watching this. And what happened is that people got excited, and they were watching these reports. Sorry, I'm trying to. Here we go. And they saw, like, graffiti also was taking place during this time. And people didn't think that this would happen in Syria, because in Syria you had this saying that the walls have ears. And people, it was more oppressive. So you were so afraid to speak because even the walls were listening. That's the idea behind this phrase, that the walls have ears. But as I said, the people were watching, and you could get everything now on Al Jazeera and the news online. And what happened is that they saw graffiti taking place in Egypt, and then this happened in Damascus. And it was done by a group of kids, all between the age of 12 and 15. And they graffitied outside their school. And it says, "It's your turn, doctor." And those kids were arrested and tortured. And it's one thing when that happens to adults, and it's another thing when it happens to kids. So people in Syria came out. They came out and protested, and that's how the revolution happened. And so when I talk about this with other people in schools, I often pose a question to kids of why do people write on walls? And in Syria, graffiti didn't really exist before the revolution. Maybe in places like Syria, it's the only way to actually get a message across because it's the safest way. And sometimes the walls are saying what people can't say, but even when maybe the news isn't covering what we want to say or what we need to hear. And so I tell people pay attention to the walls. So my book Tagging Freedom, it's about graffiti and vandalism, graffiti, and it addresses the question, is graffiti vandalism or activism? And I like to bring up that debate with kids and with students. And I think adults. So I'm going to read, normally I read from the first chapter, but I'm going to try something new. And I'm going to try reading from a part at the end. And at this point, Kareem is in the US. He's worried about his friends in Syria because they've been graffitiing and things are getting a little bit more tense there. And he's one of them, he thinks might have been arrested, but he's not sure because he can't get a hold of him. And meanwhile, in the US, he's been graffitiing with graffiti chalk, not with real paint. And with Samira's best friend, Eleonora. And Samira has just found out that they're the kids that have been using graffiti chalk to wake up this town. And they've also learned that one of the people in the school who's sort of leading a graffiti is vandalism campaign, that she just told everyone that it's being said that whoever, if they catch the people who've been doing this graffiti in the town of Allensdale, they're going to get expelled if they're students. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to try this from the middle. Kareem headed back to his aunt and uncle's house. He was still angry, but he no longer wanted to punch a hole in the wall. How could he work with people who were afraid of spraying chalk on walls? How could he explain that if they wanted change, they had to take risks? Deep down, he knew it wasn't Samira and Eleanor's fault. Before the revolution, he would have cared about getting in trouble as well. He stopped at the front door of his aunt and uncle's home and closed his eyes. He imagined that he was about to walk into his own apartment in Syria. Maybe his mom would have made his favorite foods, lahme bil or sheikh mahshi, or her favorite, mujaddara, or his dad's kusa mahshi. He had smelled them in Allensdale too, but it wasn't only the food he missed. It was the doorman, Abu Abdo, who would play soccer with him on random afternoons. It was the falafel place a few doors down, the sound of cars outside, the random voices of their neighbors. He opened the door and heard only the chatter of the television. Samira was on the couch with the remote control in her hand. Thanks for the picture, Kareem said, pausing at the top of the stairwell. I'm going to my room. Samira bolted from the couch and placed her body between Kareem and the stairs. Not so fast, Mr. Graffiti. I'm not in the mood for this, Samira, he said. Can you please move? No, she looked at him firmly in the eyes. I need to talk to you. Kareem stepped back and folded his arms. Okay, then talk. Samira dragged him over to the couch and sat next to him. Kareem, I want to do a piece with you here in Allensdale, said Samira, her eyes wide with excitement. I want to help. Wait a minute, said Kareem. What happened? A couple hours ago, you and Eleanor were afraid of getting arrested, and now I'm confused. Sam pulled out her notebook. Well, since Kat's on to Ellie, we decided she's going to take a little break. That ah, when do we when we do the next piece, we'll make sure she has an alibi. Kareem rolled his eyes a little, and Sam said, Come on, Kareem. She really wants to help, and I want to help. I should have been helping all this time. Kareem stared at the television. He knew Samira was being sincere, but she didn't really seem like the graffiti type. She made banners and joined groups like Spirit Squad. Samira, you just don't get it, he said, hunching his shoulders. Samira nodded and quietly said, Okay, maybe you can explain it to me. Kareem looked up at the ceiling, then back at his cousin. Her eyes were big and earnest. He wanted to help her understand. He just wasn't sure exactly how to explain it all. You know, a few months ago, my life wasn't much different than yours. I was in my home. I had my family around me and best friends. I played soccer. There was even a girl in my class. She was so pretty and he paused, blushed, and glanced back at the ceiling. Never mind. Anyway, when the revolution started, things changed. He told Samira the entire story about the kids from Daraa and Hamza, the protests, the talks with Rami, the graffiti, the shabiha, and how his parents had sent him away against his will. He told her about Hassan's texts and he was how worried he was that Hassan or Yusuf or Rami or George would get caught or might already have been caught. He had never said it all out loud. He closed his eyes while he talked to keep the tears from coming. He couldn't believe this was his life. Samira listened in silence. We weren't asking for permission, Samira. Freedom, by its definition, does not require permission. We were demanding our freedom. He paused. A graffiti artist named Sprayman tagged that phrase all over Damascus a few weeks ago. He swallowed hard, struggling to force the next sentence out. A few days ago, he was arrested. I think Sprayman is my friend Rami. And when you're arrested in Syria, sometimes you're never heard from again. They're called the disappeared, and we have thousands of disappeared in Syria. There are moms who have no idea what happened to their children, and for years they ask questions they hope. It's one thing to lose someone you love. It's an entirely other thing to have no idea for months on end if the person you love is even alive or dead. What's happening here in Allensdale, it's just play. We're talking about spraying simple messages in chalk. And if we can't even stand by that, I don't know what to say. After a long pause, Samira said, I get it. I understand. So are you ready? What if you get in trouble? Are you ready for Cat? Sam tapped on her sketchbook and looked right at Kareem. I'm ready, and I have ideas. So so I thought just to end the session, I would show you all a few more, some of the graffiti that appeared in Syria and also in Palestine. As I said, I talk a lot about what it means to write on walls. And Palestine has some of this is the wall in the West Bank that separates the Palestinian territories from Israel. And it has some of the most iconic graffiti all around the world. And as I said, in Syria, it didn't exist before the revolution. So I love to go through and sort of look at some of the graffiti that we do end up seeing, and the murals that especially started to appear in the free areas at the time. So yeah, this was in Idlib. People are watching. And the graffiti around the world today, it's often just stunning. In Chile, that's South Florida. Are you guys seeing this? Am I doing this right? Yeah, okay.
We can see it.
Okay, just checking. Suddenly I'm like, wait, am I just looking at this and talking? Okay. Anyways, and I just want to leave you on this picture. This is who we're here for today. So thank you. I think that's me. I am going to end this. Please, everyone, don't forget to donate to the Middle East Children's Alliance. And I am going to, let's stop the recording.